Fishing trips anywhere, anytime. FishingBooker.com.
At Midway USA, we put customers first. The Nitro Express shipping system is icing on the cake. It was a big investment of time and money to take super fast, low-cost shipping to a whole new level. The Nitro Express helps ensure same-day shipping and low shipping cost. We hope you enjoy the Nitro Express. We built it just for you. For just about everything for the outdoors, go to MidwayUSA.com.
I'm Larry Potterfield with Midway USA. Thanks for your business.
Want to plan your next fishing trip without the hassle? FishingBooker.com is the best way to find and book a fishing charter anywhere in the world. Whether you're chasing trophy fish or just looking for a family day on the water, Fishing Booker makes it simple, fast, and secure. With thousands of experienced guides, verified reviews, and 24/7 customer support, Fishing Booker takes the guesswork out of planning. Visit FishingBooker.com and book your trip today. Fishing Booker. Fishing trips made easy.
Welcome to the Casting Across Fly Fishing Podcast. I'm Matthew of CastingAcross.com, where I explore the quarry and culture of fly fishing. Today on the podcast, I'm doing a little bit of a vacation review. Well, I don't really think that you are that interested in what I did on my family vacation, but for this 348th episode, hopefully some of the things that I've done over these last 2 weeks can be beneficial to you as you are thinking about approaching your time away either this summer or sometime in the near future. So it definitely serves as kind of me talking about what I've been doing, but hopefully it will be a springboard for you to do the things that you may be very well doing in the near future. So the first thing, Buc-ee's. All right. So if you live in the South, particularly like the Southwest, you are well acquainted with Buc-ee's, the gas station with the Beaver and so much else going for it. One of the very first things that my family and I did after crossing the Mason-Dixon line was stop at the northernmost Buc-ee's at present time, which was being opened up just south of Harrisonburg, Virginia. Harrisonburg is where James Madison University is. There's actually some pretty good trout fishing in that area. If you are familiar with Mossy Creek, which is one of the premier spring creeks of Virginia, this is just to the east of that, right off of I-81. So my family and I were driving down I-81. We left New Hampshire the previous day. We spent the night in Pennsylvania, and then we made our way down to the Charlottesville area, but we stopped at the grand opening of Buc-ee's. It was just something that I felt like we needed to experience. So it's my wife, myself, my 5 boys. They are ages 13, 10, 8, 6, and 4 months, and my dog. We stopped at Buc-ee's, we went in, and it was a whirlwind, but it is worth the hype. I mean, again, if this is something that you get to experience every day because you live in Texas or Alabama or, in outside of Florence, South Carolina, then I can understand how it might just be a little bit passé. But for folks who just see this online and hear people talking about it, see the Beaver stickers on people's water bottles, it was a lot of fun, and we actually had some other friends and family stop there this last few weeks, and we were able to compare and contrast the things that we bought. Just in case you were curious, I had a brisket sandwich, and it was better than most brisket sandwiches. I think if I were to go to like a premier barbecue destination, I would be a little bit disappointed. However, if you're getting it from a gas station with a Beaver mascot, I'd be pretty happy there. The Beaver nuggets, which are basically like super sweet corn pops. I still have yet to eat my 1/4 pound overbite, which is a giant peanut butter cup. And but my boys had a blast. They got one of them got a Buc-ee's onesie. Just a lot of fun, and the kind of thing that I imagine on your way to the river or on your way home after a day of fishing, this is precisely what you would want to hit. Or if you're on your way to a long drive to fishing, this is where you could go to get anything and everything you need. I mean, everything but the flies they're going to have at Buc-ee's. So that was a lot of fun. So outside of Charlottesville is where we stay, generally speaking, when we are on family vacation. We have split time. Maybe 65% of the time is down in Charlottesville, and the rest of the time is up in Northern Virginia. And down in Charlottesville, we are kind of on the southern end of the Shenandoah National Park. That doesn't mean that we are kind of trapped to only go to the north, because one of the cool things about the Shenandoah National Park is that it is actually surrounded by the Washington Jefferson National Forest. And so there's a lot of opportunities to get into protected land and get into hiking and fishing. And so we were able to do that, and a couple of things were really fun. We were able to do some hiking. I trail run. I've talked about that a little bit and how that sometimes has an intersection with the fly fishing. But then, of course, we were able to go fishing. And so some of the rivers that we fished were the East Slope streams. So there is a significant geological difference between the East Slope streams of the Shenandoah National Park and the West Slope streams of the Shenandoah National Park. I'm not going to go into too much detail of that today, but it's one of those things that as a young person, I kind of had that perspective. Like, there's something a little bit different going on between here and there. But it wasn't until I stopped later in life and really kind of gave it some more thought and some more attention that I was really able to discern and distinguish the significance of what was different between one region and the other from a geological and ultimately a hydrological perspective. And then that got me thinking, like, what is the difference between a Appalachian mountain brook trout stream, not just on two sides of a mountain range, but how does this stream look compared to the streams I've fished in South Carolina, North Carolina? Virginia obviously has a diversity from north to south. Maryland, Pennsylvania. I haven't done a lot of brook trout fishing in New York, nor Connecticut, but then Vermont and New Hampshire and Maine. And that was a lot of fun because as my son and I were hiking up to these fish and then hiking back, we talked about that. I said, does it smell different? Does the underbrush look different? Do the rocks look different? And then talking about how the trout look different. And I have a podcast probably a couple years ago about, why trout look different throughout their distribution on the East Coast. And a lot of it has to do with not only their food sources, but also just the makeup of the stream. And so to be able to think through that and then talk through it with my son, who is just beginning to grasp, my 13-year-old, kind of the scope of the opportunities for brook trout fishing, among all the other things he's learning, was really cool because personally, I knew a couple of Maryland streams and a couple of Virginia streams when I was 13, 14, 15 and just started to fly fish. And I was really not concerned a whole lot about the ecology, the hydrology, the geology. I was more concerned with how can I get these fish to bite my flies. And we were able to get into some fish. Now, there were some fun little native fish like dace that we were able to catch, but I was able to get into some brook trout as well. And they were really colored up given that it was July. And it was also nice to be able to fish really kind of worry-free, even though there's been some very low water years in the past few seasons here in Virginia. This year, that was not the case. Like most of the East Coast, there's been a significant amount of water. And when that happens, I know it's easy to say, oh my goodness, these streams are going to be washed out. But I tell you what, these mountain streams, they very quickly recover. And so you watch that USGS monitoring station, or you use an app like Trout Routes or whatever you might have. And as soon as that water level starts to drop, you go and you hit that water. And I find that everything kind of comes alive. I fish dry flies exclusively, and the fish were ready and willing to play ball after they were probably dealing with what looked like chocolate milk for the better part of a week. Getting out in that water and fishing for them dry flies, they were very, very receptive. And so that was really the fishing experience. And cool thing about that, and I'll talk about that here later in the podcast, was that I was reading a book, A Fly Fisherman's Blue Ridge, which was my Wednesday article, and I put a video up online. And I actually fished the North Fork of the Mormons, which is where Chris Camuto is kind of calling his home water in that book. And I don't want to retread too much of the road that I walked in that video, but it was cool to be able to read that book and then go fish on that river. And it wasn't just North Fork of the Moments, but other rivers also that I had fished in my life. For example, he fishes a very small stream called Payne Run, which is a west slope stream just outside of Waynesboro, Virginia, actually closer to the town of Grottoes, if my memory is correct. I remember there was a very, very old barbecue restaurant that is not there anymore that my buddy and I would stop at, because the first exposure I had to that river, to Payne Run, if again, this is if memory serves me correctly, was doing some research for a high school project, but then sending that research to the Shenandoah National Park. And we fished up that mountain into the late fall evening, and then we started fishing just in the end of the daylight. And that day we'd seen so much bear scat and bear activity because it was right before they started to hibernate. And then finding ourselves high up on the mountain in the dark without flashlights, working our way back by the starlight and the moonlight. And then reading about Kamuta's experience camping on this river and bears surrounding him. It was, only terrifying in the sense that I had this visceral memory of that same experience, but just also really, really cool to be able to have that shared experience also. So that book was a really cool thing to bring along on this vacation, and it was something that I was able to not only read to kind of get through another fly fishing book, but also to find something that really dovetailed into my experiences that week, but also kind of on my life. For example, the family, we went and picnicked and hung out on a lake in the national forest to the southwest of Shenandoah. And the book talks about some surveying and sampling regarding acid rain that was done in the 90s in that precise spot. So it was just a really cool coincidental thing. Just for those who are curious, the other book that I read was Reclaiming the Dark Ages, How the Gospel Light Shone from 500 to 1500 by John Wright and Yannick Imbert, which is really cool because there's a lot of church history from the Protestant Reformation onward. I read a lot of reformers and a lot of Puritans, and then a lot of evangelical figures of the last few hundred years. But this is really cool to kind of revisit some figures and characters that I kind of see reference from time to time, but really haven't thought much about back since I took church history 10 years ago. So that was the other book that I read on this vacation. I did stop at Banner of Truth Publishing in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. So if you know Carlisle, Pennsylvania, you know of Yellow Breech Creek. The Latort Spring Run is just close to Big Spring, Falling Spring. It's just a really important part of East Coast trout fishing, but they also have Banner of Truth. So if you are a Christian or you like reading books about Christianity, you could do a whole lot worse than stopping at Banner of Truth off of I-81. They have books that have fallen off of a bookshelf and have a dent in them, and some really cool reprints and really good books that they've put out that are 50% off. So I always get into trouble, as I did just a couple of weeks ago. Something else that I do want to share with you. This is important. Not as important as what I just said, but also very important. Do not underestimate gas station chicken when you're in the South. My friends who live up in New England are completely aghast at this idea, but gas station chicken down here in Virginia, and I know the same thing is true for other places I've been in the Carolinas and in Georgia and Florida and in Alabama. Gas station chicken can be really, really good. And my boys actually think it's very silly that, not only do we not have Buc-ee's up north, we don't have Sheetz up north, but we don't have gas station chicken up north. And so just a reminder, as you're driving through, stop and taste the chicken. I think that's one of the things I appreciate the most about fly fishing. And as I've had the just the privilege of having older folks that have fished with me that have said, "Hey, yeah, don't skip out on trying this. Let's take a flyer. Let's give it a whirl." And a gas station chicken is one of those things. But there's so many other things. I mean, even out west, I would have never thought to buy tamales out of the back of someone's hatchback on the side of the road. But I have family who said, "Hey, you need to do this on your way up to go fishing in the park, in the Rocky Mountains. Stop and get some tamales." And I'm thinking, okay, if I die of some sort of crazy disease, hopefully you will be able to find my body in the backcountry. But just absolutely delicious tamales out of the back of someone's hatchback. Same thing is true with gas station chicken. Again, use your discernment, but don't sleep on it. So when I'm not eating chicken, when I'm not up in the mountains, when I'm not reading, what am I doing? I would say the majority of my time fishing was spent on a small Army Corps of Engineers regulated impoundment in Central Virginia that my in-laws live on the banks of. And it's a special place because it's right there. We can watch it happen. We can watch waterfowl, that is. We can watch the waterfall over the dam, but we can watch waterfowl come in and land all day long from their back porch and their back deck. And it's really, really cool. And then head out with the canoe and taking 2 kids at a time. Generally, it's my younger 2, or then it's my older 2, and we will be out and we will chase any and all fish that we can find in that little impoundment. Now, it's primarily panfish, long ear sunfish, pumpkin seed, bluegill, and then some green sunfish, largemouth bass, and there's some crappie in there also. I'm sure there's catfish, but we have never taken the time to plumb the depths with dough bait or hot dogs, whatever else might be down there. But this is really the highlight of the trip. So when I come down, I do fish the mountain streams, which is awesome. And I can fish the spring creeks out in Western Virginia, which I really enjoy. But truth be told, it is getting out in the canoe and chasing after aggressive, hungry, warm water fish that I get most excited about. I will throw one little box of trout flies in my pack. And it's not because those mountain trout are not discerning, but that's really all I feel like I need to bring for them. However, for these bass, I will bring multiple fly boxes and then a big box of conventional lures. Because this is a great example of what I talked about last week on the podcast, which is not being afraid to switch over to spinning gear. So I brought a nice little medium light action spinning rod, just in case the weather was weird or the fish were responding to my boys' lures more than my flies. I end up using a spinning rod quite a bit because the rain and the thunderstorms brought that water level up, and it turned that water so murky and cloudy. And so I was using jerk baits. I think one of my absolute favorite lures, whether I be all the way up in New England, fishing up in northern New Hampshire, or down here in Virginia. Everywhere I've gone is a Rapala original floating minnow, black back, silver body. I think that's called like the silver shiner or silver shad. It is just an absolutely killer pattern that you can fish fast, you can fish slow, and I had a lot of success. Nice, heavy, couple pound bass coming to hand in the canoe first thing in the morning, last thing at night. Once the weather goes from like 95 down to the high 80s. And so that was a lot of fun to do that and do it with my boys who were able to have some fishing success also. But the one thing I wanted to mention, is the challenge of the bluegill, the challenge of the sunfish. And these things were chasing dragonflies all day, every day. You'd see these fish come completely out of the water, and you see this little dragonfly or damselfly go buzzing away completely undisturbed by what had just happened. Or they might be disturbed. I can't tell from the body language of a dragonfly, their emotional state. But brought the fly rod out there, have beautiful little patterns, a couple different styles, foam body, fur body, hair body, different types of dragonflies. And those fish required a very specific action and movement on those flies to trigger a response. And the other thing that's hard about fishing dragonflies for panfish is that these are, if you want to match the hatch, you're talking about a relatively large insect. And you're also talking about a fish that has a relatively small mouth. And so you do not get a 100% hookup rate. It takes a lot of patience. It's quite frustrating because you make the cast precisely where that panfish had just bursted the surface, trying to chase after that fly, and then you give it the right twitches. It comes in and butt breaks the surface again for your imitation, if it's still around. And it can't hook itself because the fly is too large. So what did I do? I downsized. I put on a stimulator with big rubber legs, thinking, okay, it can aim for the center of mass and it'll hook itself. No dice. This was not dragonfly enough, which just goes to show, whether it be mountain trout, whether it be bluegill, they are not foolish. They are looking for something, and they are looking for it with a certain level of specificity. So just another kind of humbling reminder of that even the most simple fish, the kind of fish that little kids catch and have, really not a hard time catching, can really teach you something about how there's nothing you can do besides perfection unless you want to catch these fish. I mean, they were not going after streamers. They were not going after little poppers. They were not going after the conventional lures, little spinners, little grubs. They wanted dragonflies, and unless it was the right size and it was doing that right little flutter twitch that had to impart with like a combination of a stripping hand and the rod tip, they were not going to bite. So again, it's good to be humbled now again, but I was able to get into some really, really good ones. And man, on a fiberglass 4-weight, it really, really was a lot of fun to have some, hand size panfish pull you around, and some bass that would, run the length of your forearm, cubit length, if you will. So that is effectively the vacation. There's so much more, so much time with family, some really, really good food, really, really good drinks, really, really good fellowship. Oh, one more thing. I think a lot of you, like I said before, know that I run, and today I did my kind of annual run of the Manassas Battlefield up here in Northern Virginia. That's always a lot of fun, and man, it is. If you say, man, I can't run, I would get tired. It's really hard to get tired, really hard to get worn out, even in 95 degrees and high humidity, when your mind is thinking about what happened in this place about 150 years ago. Today was pretty much vacant because it's a weekday, but also it was just incredibly muggy and incredibly hot. But to run there and know what happened, not just once, but twice, two major significant battles of the Civil War, you didn't get tired. When you get done, you realize you're hot and you're sweaty, you're worn out. But I absolutely love that. It was cool. I was able to run in some really cool places this vacation up here in Northern Virginia, and then also down in the Charlottesville and Waynesboro area up in the mountains. And it's a great way to add another little bit of flavor and exposure and experience to your time just exploring new places. So there you go. If you have questions about these areas, I can't say I'm an expert, like capital E expert, but I spent a lot of time here on vacation, and I lived in Northern Virginia for a number of years, did some guiding in the area, and know a lot of folks that know a lot more than me. So if you have questions about Northern Virginia, if you have questions about the Shenandoah region, the Blue Ridge as a whole, then don't hesitate to reach out. The worst I can tell you is I'm not sure. Here's maybe who you could talk to. Matthew@castingacross.com is the email address, and I'd be happy to respond any way that I can. But again, hopefully, whether it be talking about Buc-ee's, whether talking about books, whether talking about gas station chicken, panfish, or trout, my last few weeks can be an encouragement to you to get out there and enjoy time by yourself, with family, with friends, in really, really cool places. This week on castingacross.com, the first article was called The Optimism of the Small Stream Angler. The Optimism of the Small Stream Angler. And this article came to my mind as I was standing knee deep in a mountain stream in the Shenandoahs, thinking this pool that I'm about to cast into is where I'm going to catch that 10-inch fish. It's not going to be a dace. It's not going to be a 4-inch brook trout. Certainly not going to get skunked. I'm going to catch the 10-inch, mountain trophy. And it didn't happen. And so I went to the next one and thought, but this is the one I'm going to do it. And that happened over and over and over again, all the way up the mountain. And I got to thinking as I was, having various levels of failure and success, there's no other kind of fishing where I experience this sort of optimism, where I'll actually verbalize it. So this article was born from that experience. Wednesday's article is called Video I Read Your Top Fly Fishing Book Recommendation. And so, as I mentioned earlier, I brought with me Chris Camuto's A Fly Fisherman's Blue Ridge. This book, as I mentioned in the video, is the book that has been recommended to me more than any other book by you, the reader, the listener, the viewer of Casting Across. And so I picked it up back in the wintertime, and I said, you know what? I know I'll be in Virginia this summer. I'm going to bring it, and I'm going to read it. But there's a lot of cool things. The book is a great book. The overlap with my life is really, really great. But what I want to mention here is how awesome it is to have people who consume what I put together and then give back in the fact that they send me book recommendations, that they just kind of talk about their experiences. I love it. Any comment, any question, whether it be on the website in a comment, whether it be on Spotify in a comment, whether it be through social media, or whether it be through email, Matthew@castingacross.com. I love it. It's nothing but good stuff. So thank you for sending that book recommendation. There's too many names to read off all the different folks that sent me a Fly Fisherman's Blue Ridge as a recommendation. So thank you if you were one of them. This week's recommendation of the podcast is I'm asking you to do something for me, and that is leave a rating and a review on iTunes and or Spotify if you have not done it yet. So I only ask this maybe once every few months, but today I am asking that if you have yet to do that and you feel like the Casting Across Fly Fishing Podcast warrants a 5-star review, then please head over to your platform of choice and leave that review and that rating. That really helps get the podcast in front of more people, which just grows the audience, grows the experience, and does good things for all of us. So I think if you've done it already, and if you have not yet, I would ask you to please do that if you think it warrants it. Thanks for listening to the Casting Across Fly Fishing Podcast. Please subscribe in your favorite podcast app and rate the podcast in Apple Podcast and Spotify. Then head over to castingacross.com for 3 posts a week on the people, places, and things that go into the pursuit of fish.
Hey guys, this is Melissa Bachman. Are you ready to stop spooking deer before it's even time to hunt them? Then you need the new Flex S Dark cellular trail camera from SpyPoint. With a no-glow flash option, long-lasting solar power, and a ton of settings that can be changed anytime through the SpyPoint app, there are no more excuses for letting your deer get wise before the season even starts. So check it out for yourself and see why the SpyPoint Flex S Dark is the unstoppable and undetectable scouting tool you need for your next hunt.
Want to plan your next fishing trip without the hassle? FishingBooker.com is the best way to find and book a fishing charter anywhere in the world. Whether you're chasing trophy fish or just looking for a family day on the water, FishingBooker makes it simple, fast, and secure. With thousands of experienced guides, verified reviews, and 24/7 customer support, FishingBooker takes the guesswork out of planning. Visit FishingBooker.com and book your trip today. FishingBooker. Fishing trips made easy.